apparently not. We finished earlier about talking about subscription models and that kind of thing. Something that fascinates me, and I think probably fascinates a lot of our listeners, is the driverless car revolution, which I'll say, doing that really annoying fingers in the air thing. Is that really upon us? Is it something that's going to happen, Pontus?
Eventually, yes, I think so, but we're far from it. So you guys will know better. But I think we're sort of level 3, level 4, dibbling with level 4 when it comes to autonomy in the car. I think the step to level 5 is massive, and most of it is technical evolution in terms of being able to spot the right interferences that you can't predict up front. Mm-hmm. And eventually will come, but not for the next 20 years or so, as far as I can.
I think it's very easy for people to overstate progress. So I was watching Back to the Future 2 with my children the other day, and they're thinking, why aren't there hoverboards? Yeah,
but they're not thinking, why aren't you watching the first one?
Yeah, but no one's using a smartphone. Yeah. So it massively unpredicts that. And you think about the evolution, adaptive cruise control, or more automatic cars. There is increasing levels of autonomy. How we get there will probably just be quite hard for us to perceive.
Yeah, I think it's also it's trust, isn't it? I know Elon Musk, bless him, had a bit of a. Did everyone see the launch of their Cybertruck, which is the best?
He's
best
sold
anything.
He's got 150,000 orders.
Has he already? Well, it's not. I'm not one of them, but yeah. I mean, we saw with that where he did a demonstration of the bulletproof glass and asked a guy to throw a rock at it, and the guy threw a rock at it and broke the glass straight away. So
to be fair, it wasn't rockproof.
Good point, and it didn't go through like he said.
Was it?
Very good point.
Or is it just good marketing?
It could be. It got everyone talking about it. It went viral very quickly. That's a very good point. But it is about trust, isn't it? And
I've got a different view on how long this is taking. I think everybody's going, this is a technology problem. I think it's actually it's a consumer confidence problem and a legal problem and an insurance problem. Yeah. The technology is there, and the amount of money that's being put into this is more than many things that you can say, cancer and, malaria and all the rest of it. It's insignificant compared to the amount of money that's going into autonomous cars. And the reason is because if they crack autonomous cars and AI around cars, they've sold pretty much everything else because it's so complicated. So you're seeing the technology businesses as well as the big car companies putting enormous amounts of money into this. And they'll get the technology very much quicker than I think anybody else. The problem will be, and I relate it to the cars coming in with the horses, is when you've got in a situation with people driving cars and autonomous cars, that doesn't work.
Yeah,
you can imagine 100 years ago with a street full of horses and someone driving a car. It doesn't really work. So it's basically about legislation and insurance. And as soon as people start to experience it, it'll be like... to me, it's like private hire vehicles and Uber, etc. Everybody's like, what? Get into a private person's car, and once they've done it a few times, they go, this is great. Why would I ever take a taxi again?
Yeah. And
it'll be the same with autonomous cars. So I'm a bit of a lone voice in this, but I think it will be much quicker than people realise.
I don't know. I think a few of our listeners will probably agree with that, really. Neil, from your perspective, from Imperial Cars'
sell them,
perspective...
As long as we can still sell them, I don't care. No, I think from an autonomous point of view, definitely it's around the insurance question. Who's responsible? Should you, is the car going to be directed towards the animal that's crossing the road to hit that rather than the pedestrian, whatever? But who's responsible? Is it the technology? Is it the company? Is it going to be Tesla that take the hit on those when the consumer's not driving the car or not in control? Having said that, I think, yes, knowing what Elon Musk invests, some ridiculous number like $7,000 a second in technology, whatever, but it will come. But I think there's more elements around that insurance and legal side that's got to be really fleshed out first. But maybe 10 years down the road we'll be there. I don't think it'll be any quicker than that. I think there's too many, and as Andy said, you've got to get to that sort of that point where everybody can transfer across into a driverless car so that the technology works.
Absolutely, yeah. Car sharing, is that a similar thing? Or is that something that's more likely to damage traditional car sales?
All of the research we've done shows that in the near term, and kind of say within 3 years, people in the UK like owning a car or having exclusive access to a car. So how they pay for it is a different thing. People do like having that exclusive access. There are definitely times when you're kind of space constrained, like being in the centre of London, where it makes sense to kind of dip in and dip out. But I think you've got there's a huge psychological barrier for people, and that will change as us oldies kind of die out and younger ones come in, kind of more used to this. But I think the other side is actually probably the structural thing around financing that stuff. Like, it is still kind of cheaper to just have that exclusive access than trying to kind of squeeze the value out of a car and keep it paid for.
Yeah, I think from that, having been at the Automotive European Conference a couple of years ago when they started to really push the car sharing and daily lease, monthly lease, I think Europe is a different proposition. For some reason in the UK there's far more, let's say, emotional attachment to the vehicle. I mean, it makes complete sense. The stats are that 95% of the time an ownership of a car it's stationary on a drive. So shared parking facilities in Europe and being able to rent that car for a week or a day, or that all seems to work. But I think here in the UK there is that emotional attachment. You go out and you buy. Well, talking at the break, Andy, you took a lot of time choosing your Audi because you wanted that particular spec. Right. Would you be happy loaning that car out for a day to a family with kids going to McDonald's?
The price is right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Neil?
I think there's that accessibility issue as well. And if I suppose again, I wouldn't want my car taken out of a shared parking facility. How do I know it's going to come back on time, ready for me to go home? Now, okay, there's all the controls around leaving reviews in these systems, but I think UK, we're still quite away from that particular development.
I see a generational difference there. So if I look at my kids, they're 10 and 12, they've never taken to email. I don't think they will take to email. And what is sort of, for us, we want our car and that's part of our lives and something that we own. I could see them definitely not having that same attachment to a car and probably being able to take that step that we may not take.
I think you're probably right. I suppose it depends how many posters are on the walls of kids these days of cars, which we all probably used to have, like Lamborghini Countachs and things like that. But yeah, I think, like you say, it's our attachment to cars, which is probably a big part of that.
I think ownership models is going to help shift it. So Neil was talking about, okay, did I want someone to use my car when I'm not using it? But what if I don't own my car? What if I'm just paying a per usage? I drove it to the station this morning, and then actually I don't pick the same car up to take home. So I think what's really starting to change people's thinking and is driving mobility quicker is the monthly payment, the monthly fee. I don't pay out £15,000 anymore. I pay a few £100 a month or £300 a month, and then you can see you could shift therefore to, for that money, I don't have a car, I have access to mobility, and that's. But I mean, certainly this is low volume stuff at the moment, and as you said, Neil, if you go to Berlin, a lot of the people I know, friends in Berlin, they just literally don't have a car. They just go, they get off the plane, they use their mobile phone, they find where the car is, and they drive it, and they drop it at a point, usually electric, plug it in, and then they get charged like you do Uber, and it just sends through the receipt. So it is coming. It won't. I don't think it's a massive impact on car sales in the short term, but it's an interesting model change.
Whenever there's kind of disruption, you need to think. It's very smart people behind it thinking about what's the problem to solve. And actually, I think with shared ownership, it's kind of about kind of making cars economically more accessible to people. So I think the aspiration should be that it's about making the market bigger for people who are using cars. And there will always be a group of people who want exclusive access and need it because their schedules aren't rigid. But it still comes down to cost and the economics, and I think that's we live in a low interest rate economy, and everyone's assuming we're going to for the time being, and that will be kind of crucial as to whether this stuff is viable or not.
Absolutely. Do we think it is viable? I mean, what's the difference between a car subscription versus a lease, for example? Because you're still paying towards something that ultimately you're not going to own. Yeah. What's the difference?
Well, I think with the proliferation. That's the right word. The proliferation of PCH now as well, where you're moving to you're hiring that car over a long-term lease. But looking at some of the models that are coming out, where you can lease that car for a month to 12 months to 3 months to 5 months, having the ability to swap that vehicle during that term so if you're going on holiday for 2 weeks and need something with a bigger boot or a station wagon or whatever, you've got the option to do that. I think that flexibility will come. I think the whole car share piece is a different. I suppose. I think it will be small scale in the UK for a period of time, quite a period of time. But there will be, and I've got friends now who live in Southampton, don't own cars, and they'll lease and hire when they need to. So it will come, but it will be a small percentage.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think. What do you think, Pontus?
I agree. It will come. It's a question of term. So you lease for a longer term, and there will be models for shorter term usage. I think the flexibility, you make a good point. There will be when the average sort of consumer realizes that there's room for flexibility and you can actually change what you need and when you need it. That will probably drive some of the behavioral change, but it will suddenly take these small steps forward as these things become public knowledge.
Yeah.